That is not what I meant to do. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna get this while my music's playing. What? Why does it keep doing that? Am I ready? Apparently not. Okay, let me stop my music now that I've got my frame ready. Goodness, I wasted 30 seconds on that, but sorry, but okay, we're gonna be fine. Hello, welcome to week 2, English 100, summer session. Let me tell you guys, this is a lot of work. I'm saying for me. I know it is for you too, but oh my goodness. It's not just that it's a lot of work, it's the work involved in what I just did. See how I just clicked that button because I forgot to publish that. Every little thing has to be super intentionally built and published and organized. And sometimes it takes me a minute, which is what happened today. But here we are. Okay, moving forward. So everything's published for this week, and it looks like a lot. Last week, let me scroll down real quick. Last week you had 6 assignments total. This week you have 10, and I know that's like, oh my gosh, what are you trying to do? And what is with all of this? Relax, we're gonna get there. Let me just start with, we're doing a nice little introduction to the whole group so we know who's in the class. I used to do this in the first week, but then I realized a lot of people drop after the first week and a lot of people add, and then they miss out on this introduction. So I moved it to the second week for summer, which is really like week 4 in real life. If this was a real long semester, 16 weeks. Anyway, everybody who's here should be here for the stay and should be planning to pass the class. So, hey, yay, let's introduce ourselves. So go ahead and post in that discussion. And then one assignment for today, I posted this last night actually, why you matter in educational curriculum. There's a video that goes along with it. I want you to do the writing first and then watch the video and then go back and add to your writing based on what you saw in the video. This is sort of just a response just to get you thinking in the realm of like, what's it like to be represented in the curriculum at school? What if that was the main focus when I went to school, that things were relatable to my own life and my own experience? Well, studies show it makes it easier to learn. Anyway, so there's that. And then the small group discussion is asking you to post something from your notes and then respond to it. The first discussion of the week is the whole class. So there's like 30 people. So it's going to be a big fat discussion. This one is your small group. This is the same group last week when you talked about that purple box thing, which was sort of just for fun. This one is more about the assignments, but do start with your preferred name and one thing you like to do for fun. And then how important is it to include, basically paste your answer from your assignment into this. So you get 5 points for introducing yourself and pasting your answer from your assignment. And then tomorrow you can come back, respond to one person, greet them, and then finish these sentences as a response to what they posted. Okay, so those sentence starters are there for you to use so that you don't have to come up with your own answer. I'm having trouble clicking my box. Hold please. This is just a reminder to respond to that discussion. That should go into your to-do list because I know sometimes it's hard to remember. This assignment is to go back to something from last week, the learning history, and I made comments on every person's submission. So when you go back to that, if you're not sure how to access the comments, this video will show you how. It links to a web page that shows you how to get to those comments. And what I want you to do is actually respond to those comments and then take this, it's set up as a quiz function, but it's not actually a quiz. It's just a couple of questions that you answer, and then you automatically get points for it. And now it's not letting me hit a next button, so let me go back to the module. More things to edit out. Okay, now we start with the reading notes and the small group sharing. Small group sharing is going to be just a copy paste from your notes. But the notes, okay, whoa. I want you to read all of these things. Curiosity Killed the Student, Building a Better World, and Multiple Intelligences. But guess what? They're not very long. And the only reason I separated them is because I wanted you to have separate notes for each one. So you have this notes template is going to open and look like this. Oops. So part 1 is going to be the dialectical journal portion where you put passages from the reading in here, right? So you copy paste them from the reading. And then on this side, you put your thoughts, feelings, questions, interpretations, or you can provide a summary. What I am looking for in the end with all of these notes is that what you take from the article is either somewhat related to the overall message or argument in that article, and or is related to something you can relate to on a personal level. Either you've experienced it, or you know somebody that has, or you've learned about it before, you have something to say about it from your own personal experience. And then part 2 is 4 questions. I put them in a table form just because the earlier part was in a table form. I don't know, sometimes I wonder why I make these choices, but I do. So what do you think the main argument of this reading is? Does the author present multiple perspectives or points of view on the argument topic? And then this part asks you, did you capture any of this in your dialectical journal notes from above? If you didn't, maybe add something like, oh yeah, they did provide, or you could put it here in these notes. Connections between what you read and what you already knew about the topic. This is the part that I was talking about before. So if you're grabbing a bunch of passages from the article just to get it done, and then later on you're like, I don't connect to any of this, that's going to be an issue because you're going to be using these notes to make something out of them later. So make sure that you did make a connection with at least 2 of the passages that you pulled. And then what questions do you have or something that's unanswered in the text, right? Something you're still wondering about. The space in these is to pull 6 passages. Cool. You may or may not need 6. You might only need 4 or 5. I'm going to leave that up to you. If you pull 1 passage per article, that's not enough. 2's not enough. 3's not really enough. I would say 4 is the minimum. Here's the thing. When you get to, what is this? 7.1. I can't with myself. I went to the wrong window, obviously. Okay. Remember that thing about being organized? Shh. Okay. So when you get to Building a Better World, I think it is. Let me open it. Look how short that reading is. Right? And if I'm asking you to pull 6 passages, it's like basically the whole thing. So maybe 4 from this article will be enough. And a passage could be shorter. It doesn't have to be the whole paragraph. There's a quote in here from Nelson Mandela. Maybe you want to pull that quote. Just remember that if you pull a quote that's inside of something that you're quoting, you're going to have to make sure you reference that in your writing later. Okay, this is becoming hella complicated. I'm not trying to make it complicated. I'm trying to make it simplified. So let me stick to that plan. Let me go back to the modules page. Okay, so we're down to these readings. Like I said, that one that I just opened, super short. The other 2 are a little bit longer, but not too much. And then the small group sharing tomorrow will be just to take, let's see, what did I say? 1 passage from the right and left, right? The passage and your analysis of it, whatever you wrote about it, from each article. So that'll be 3 passages, 3 analyses, and paste them into this discussion. Then when you come back to it to respond, what does the passage make you question, or what questions do you have about the point in the passage, right? Maybe there's something that is confusing to you. And then respond to what they said about it. Just point out something specific that you agreed that they made, that you specifically, why did I word it that way? My goodness. You see what happens to me when I try to get things done? Woo! Who has ADHD? My daughter says I do, but that's unofficial diagnosis. She's not a doctor. She works in human resources. Okay, so comment on a specific point they made about the passage, and then yours is more of a question. Okay, then we are moving on to, man, this is really something. I'm gonna have to do this. Back to the modules page. Respond to the discussion on the 18th. So there's a paper due on the 20th, and you notice that the only thing you're doing on the 18th is responding to that discussion, that smaller group discussion. So it might be a good idea to spend some time on Thursday working on this paper so that it's not all being done on Friday, because it's kind of, listen, it's going to look massive when you get done with it, but I want you to know that you've already done 3/4 of the work before you even start it. So let me open it and show you the mess that it is. Okay, so part 1, you're going to go back to week 1 and paste your learning history and your writer history into a document. Once you do that, you're going to go through and kind of blend it together, whatever that looks like for you. And I know that's a lot of freedom. You can leave it separate and just put a transitional sentence between the two things, or you can blend them together into one paragraph, or you can blend them together into 3 different paragraphs, or whatever feels good for you. That's going to be part 1 of this paper. If you want to label the parts in your paper, you can. You don't have to. If you do, please don't use any large font, bold, underline, or anything like that. You can just use almost like you're making a title at the beginning of each section. For MLA formatting, we don't use bolding, we don't use big, we don't use extra space, none of that. And we'll get to more of that next week. I don't enjoy teaching MLA formatting, but I do have a video for it. So, okay, so part 2, this is where you're going to bring in your notes from the readings and make a personal connection to them, which is why I stressed that in the notes. So choose 2 passages. You're going to choose 2 passages from each article and your response to it, and you're going to pull them into this document for part 2. Once you've pasted everything in, and all of your answers to part 2 of your notes. So remember that bottom part with the questions down here? You're going to put all of your answers, and you can just copy paste the questions and the answers for now if you want to. No, I have to remember which tab. Whatever works for you, just paste all of that in. So 2 passages in your responses and all of your answers. Then you're going to be separating them out so that each paragraph is going to deal with 1 article. So if you want to paste 2 passages and your responses and your answers to part 2 from the first thing first, and then craft that into a legible sort of written prosaic thing, and then do the second one and then do the third one, that's fine too. You don't have to paste it all at once if you don't want. This is a suggestion for how to organize your paragraphs, starting with a transition sentence, then a topic sentence, and then your body sentences. This gives you specifics. Use your answers in part 2, specifically number 1 and number 2, to introduce the article. So this could be part of your transitional and your topic sentence. These don't have to be separate things. They could be blended together, right? So your transitional sentence might need to be separate, especially if it's the first paragraph that you're switching to part 2, because you're moving from your learner history, writing history to this article part. So you might need a transitional sentence, but your topic sentence might include some of the information from number 1 and number 2 from your notes. So keep that in mind, that you've already done a lot of this writing. You're just sort of putting it now into an essay format. Okay, and then use your answers in part 1 to show what's happening in the article and how you analyzed it. Using your own experiences or things you've learned in other classes to give examples of the passages in your own life. This comes through in part 3 or number 3 of part 2 of your notes. Jeez. You could see why I spend a lot of time confused in my office. So this part, what connections can you make between what you read and what you knew about this topic already? The answer to this is this part. Okay. And then this right here is just a description of what body sentences are, like what goes into a body paragraph. After your transition sentence and your topic sentence, your body sentences. This part up here is specifically what you're putting in your body sentences. So this is the content. This describes what body sentences are. Okay, so don't let that confuse you. And then usually there's a linking sentence that comes after you're done talking about the article, which links back to the paper's main argument, which we actually don't have. I didn't actually make you create a thesis at this point, but I'm okay with that. A linking sentence could just be sort of a wind down to your concluding sentence. So don't stress too much if this doesn't make any sense to you right now. Okay, so you're going to do this whole thing 3 times, right? Because you have 3 articles. But like I said, you already did a majority of the writing. You're just now putting it into an essay form. So you're taking your simple answers from your notes and putting it into this essay. Okay, I'm at 16 minutes for this video. It's really long. I apologize, sort of. And then part 3 is a reflective conclusion. This is where you're doing some new writing. And it's reflective on your own learning process. So I want you to answer these questions. What actually happens to me when I learn something? And so the way that I like to frame this is think about putting it in context, right? So here are some examples. If I was to learn how to snowboard, for example, because that's one thing I don't know how to do on this list, what would happen to me when I'm learning how to snowboard? I know for a fact I would be on my ass a lot. Because, and maybe on my face actually, because I'm thinking about like toe side and heel side. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it. But I can imagine if you catch an edge and you're facing forward, you could catch an edge in the front and fall right on your face. So that would probably happen to me a lot. Actually, I probably would never be able to turn. So I would just slide right off the mountain to one side and that would be the end of my day. But what actually happens in my brain is like a lot, right? There's a lot of processes going on there. Don't die, don't die, don't die. So I've got that survival instinct happening. I have the anxiety of like doing something I've never done before. I have the fear of dying. Did I mention that? I also have like the excitement of being outside, of trying something new. And I also have the cognitive processes that somebody told me when I'm ready to turn, I need to do this, 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 right? And so I think of the steps that are involved. So what I just said in answering this question about what actually happens to me when I learn something, snowboarding being the something, I've already written quite a few sentences about that, right? So don't be afraid to like elaborate in this section. I know you might be tired at this point, so elaboration might look like 2 sentences and that's okay. This question about the most effective ways for you to learn something that requires a lot of reading and writing, I would love specific examples here because it's not just for me to read, how do you learn? But it's also for you to process how do you learn because you're doing a lot of reading and writing in this class and maybe you haven't even thought about what's the easiest way for me to take this information in. Maybe it's best if I don't try to take notes on the reading during my break at work. Or maybe that really works because I feel the pressure of that 15-minute mark and I have to be back on the floor and it helps me get shit done. I don't know. But this is a good kind of self-check-in. And then do I approach studying or practicing differently depending on the desired outcome? So an example would be knowing that this paper is coming up at the end of the week. Is it going to affect what you put into your notes if you know this already? Knowing that your notes are going to be what you use to write this paper? Probably. Maybe not, but probably. Maybe theoretically. So this is like all new stuff. This is the only part of this that's really brand new. There is new stuff in here, just that mostly in crafting, how to put it together, because you have all the material really already. And then this first part is really just a copy paste with a blending, right? So it's a little bit of writing practice, crafty practice. There's going to be a rubric for this assignment that will basically have these 3 parts broken down with point variations for them. If you feel like you can't get it all done by Friday, turn in what you did get done and then we'll go from there, okay? Turn in what you did get done and then we'll go from there. I'm working through reading all of your writing from last week, so look forward to getting some grades and some feedback, and we will go from there. This rubric is not the right one, so don't look at it because it's based on something else. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. 20 minutes. My goodness, I hope you watch this in 1.5 speed at least. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.